The hijacking of Indian Airlines Flight 814 on December 24, 1999 by 5 members of Pak-based jihadist group Harkat-ul-Mujahideen has been in the news ever since the web series based on it was caught in a controversy regarding the Hindu names used for Pak-based Muslim hijackers. Now there is an inside story to this big story. On seat 16C of the Indian Airlines flight IC N814 that was hijacked was a flyer whose name was not on the list of passengers shared with the media and public. Who was that ghost passenger and why wasn't his name revealed by Indian officials? Let us see who was this spy caught in the IC 814 crisis. That passenger on seat 16C was Shashi Bhusan Singh Tomar, then posted as first secretary in the Indian embassy in Kathmandu. He was then the Kathmandu station head of RAW, India's external intelligence agency. This is a fact AS Dulath, then RAW head, told India Today TV on Tuesday when asked if the RAW's station head in Kathmandu was on the hijacked IC 814. The poor man was stuck on the plane for 8 days. He knew nothing, Dulath said. That was the problem. The station head of RAW was supposed to know and pass on the information to the officers concerned. Instead, he became one of the victims of one of the worst hijackings in India's aviation history. Senior journalist Praveen Swamy had in 2000 reported for the Frontline that Tomar was returning to Delhi to meet his wife who had been hospitalized. The passenger in seat 16C was an Indian official who had the responsibility of monitoring terrorist activity in Nepal. SS Tomar, a research and analysis wing, that is RAW operative, posted to the Indian embassy in Nepal, was flying back to New Delhi to visit his wife Sonia, who had been hospitalized to correct problems arising from the improper treatment of a fracture, wrote Praveen Swamy. Not just that, Swamy also gave the links through marriage that Tomar had. Sonia Tomar, SS Tomar's wife, is the youngest sibling of N.K. Singh, perhaps the most powerful bureaucrat in the Prime Minister's office, he wrote. Between 1998 and 2001, Singh was the secretary to former PM Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Not just that, Sonia's eldest sister Shyama was married to Nikhil Kumar, a former director of the National Security Guards, the force which ought to have carried out a rescue attempt when the hijacked aircraft was in Amritsar, says the 2000 report. It was a twist of fate that Tomar was caught on the flight that was hijacked because it was he who snubbed an alert that a hijacking was likely and rebuked the RAW operative who got the tip-off. A junior RAW operative, UB Singh's second secretary, informed Councillor SBS Tomar, a senior officer of RAW in Indian Embassy, that according to information from his source, there was apprehension about hijacking of the plane by Pakistani terrorists, writes former RAW officer R.K. Yadav in his 2014 book Mission RAW. Tomar then asked the RAW operative about the veracity of his report. Singh told him that his source was a responsible officer at the airport. Tomar chided him, according to Yadav, and asked him not to spread rumors. This report was never sent to RAW headquarters and he suppressed it without cross-checking, according to Yadav in Mission RAW. Tomar must have spent very tense moments all the 8 days, knowing very well that if the hijackers got any clue about his identity, he wouldn't be spared. Had Tomar's identity been known to the hijackers, there was every possibility of him being killed in place of Rupin Katyal, who was killed by the terrorists to frighten fellow passengers, writes Yadav. The officials of the crisis management group dealing with the IC 814 hijacking didn't release the name of Tomar, fearing that he would be killed. It's a bad coincidence that he was stuck in that plane, AS Dulath, then RAW chief, told India Today TV. R.K. Yadav, the former RAW officer, says Tomar went unpunished for the major lapse in judgment. The errant RAW officer was never reprimanded for this grave lapse by raw authorities. Since he was a near relative of a senior officer in the Prime Minister's office, he was rather rewarded with a lucrative foreign assignment to USA instead of punishment for negligence, which resulted in such big fiasco, writes R.K. Yadav. In interviews years later, Dulat said that it wasn't known on December 24th, the day IC-814 was hijacked, that Tomar was on the flight, but it became apparent later. In his book Kashmir, The Vajpayee Years, Dulat conveniently withheld the information that Tomar was on that flight. However, the information that Tomar was on the ill-fated IC-814 was made public by Pakistan on 27th of December as the plane was in Taliban-controlled Kandahar. I have just now been told by a reliable source that an Indian raw agent is on board the aircraft, Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson Tariq Altaf told reporters during a news briefing in Islamabad. He later revealed to them that Tomar was the raw officer on the flight. Now, had the information reached the hijackers? It is likely because Pakistan's notorious spy agency ISI's fingerprints were all over. But it need to be so also, since Tomar wasn't singled out by the hijackers and was released like all the others.